Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm so grateful to be here with you today. We are at Impact Your Pause. Thank you for joining. My name is Terry Lynn Heath, and I am a strength, mobility, and lifestyle coach for women in menopause. Today, we will talk about these 3 subjects that can impact your menopause experience, whether you are in perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. We'll touch on each of them briefly in our hour together. I have so much to share. I always try to stay succinct and focused and interesting, but I'm so excited about supporting women through menopause that I can really go on and on. I'll share more about my personal story in a minute, but I just want to express my gratitude for you for tuning in and staying curious about your bodies, your strengths, your capabilities. The more conversations you join, initiate, and support, the more education comes your way, and the more we all feel validated and heard. I'm truly grateful to be here with you. I'm always interested in your feedback and would love to hear what you want to hear from me. As I said, my expertise is strength, mobility, and lifestyle. I will be hosting future events, so always want to hear what you need and what I can help you with. Send me a message, connect with me on any platform where you're joining from. You can also register still at www.themovementpath.com/impact-your-pause so that you can receive resources that I'll talk about during our time together today. Before we begin, the information provided in this session is for educational purposes only. It is not to be utilized as medical advice. By continuing this session, you agree that the actions you take during and after this session are your full responsibility and not the responsibility of the Movement Path or Heath Global LLC. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a moment and introduce myself and tell you a little bit more so that you know why I do what I do. It is my mission to empower women to understand the control they have over their health through movement. This is me with my 13-year-old daughter, my struggles with fertility, and the fact that 5 of 6 direct ancestors have passed in their 60s has defined my path to live an incredibly healthy life. My ultimate goal is to enjoy a health span of 105 and to be here as long as I can with my daughter and beat the odds that my family has, the history of my family and the unfortunate early disease and early deaths. So every choice I make is measured against this goal of living to be 105. So here we are. Through my studies and my work, I understand how much control we have over our health, and I'm passionate about sharing information to help us get to know our amazing bodies. By becoming aware of their function, we can manage them with more care and compassion and redefine our relationship to our one precious body. Today, as you know, in the US, women do not have the right to choose their reproductive outcomes in many states, only reinforcing this disconnection with our bodies. By discussing subjects like menopause and the vital functions of the pelvis, we can begin to reclaim our power and obtain the support system we need. In my practice, I seek to empower women to become champions of their self-care. I am, as I said, a strength, mobility, and lifestyle coach. I am certified in mobility strength, and I'm an exercise professional with ACE and a mobility specialist with functional range conditioning and a Girls Gone Strong menopause coach. And so that is my scope of practice, and I like to stay within it. And I like to say that I'm not a one-stop shop, and I'm honored to be one stop along your path. I have a large network of professionals to refer to. If you need support, please reach out after we conclude here, and I'll do my best to help you get the care you need. If you are a women's healthcare professional and would like to be included in my referral network, please reach out as well. So here we go. Let's get to it. Let's start with that menopause vision statement. So if you could wave your wand, how would your journey be different? Take a moment and think on that. If you could play fairy godmother for yourself. So your menopause vision statement is your guiding light through the twists and turns, your filter for your decision-making, and your proclamation to yourself. And I'm not suggesting your menopause vision statement can magically take away all the symptoms you are experiencing, but it does have the potential to put you in a place of power. The more we control the things that we can and make decisions that are within our control, the greater impact we have. Menopause can be a time for growth, opportunity, joy, health, strength, empowerment, and so much more. It can also be an introspective time for a woman, a chance to reflect and get clear on who you are and what's most important to you in this phase of life. It can be an opportunity also to change your course, to completely rearrange your life and do something that you didn't think that you were going to do or that you were capable of. A vision statement is a simple but powerful way to get really clear on your values and what you want out of your menopause journey, no matter the stage you are in, and it can act as your North Star throughout your transition. We often forget to check in with ourselves as we age and take on the responsibilities of caring for our families and making sure that our careers are on track, and we oftentimes don't really think deeply about what we need and want mostly in our lives. So menopause can be a perfect time for you to return to that fundamental question. So the steps during the creation of the menopause vision statement are to discover your values, determine your big rocks, and then write the statement. So we're going to gloss briefly over this. If you wanted to grab a pad of paper and a pen, you can follow along and do this quickly. My colleague Allison Prest over on LinkedIn, she's also trained in delivering this exercise, and maybe she'll be doing a full-length section on this, not to put Allison on the spot, but go ahead and give Allison a follow over on LinkedIn, Allison Prest. And but we discussed doing this, and I got this idea from her, so thank you, Allison. But we're just going to gloss briefly over this to give you an idea about what it is, and then we'll move on to our other two subjects. So our menopause vision statement, step 1, to discover your values. So here's a list of values that you can use to get your thoughts going. And the idea here is to choose 10 values that you value most highly, and then you can bear that list down to 5 and then bear that list down to 3. So take a moment and think about the things that you value when it comes to your body, health, and fitness, and what means the most to you and how you want to show up in your life. So consider how when you think about your nutrition, which values do you most strongly identify with? When you think about your lifestyle, which values do you most strongly identify with? When you think about your mindset, and so forth. And the point here is to think about what resonates deeply with you and how you can make decisions that align with these deepest beliefs. So take a moment. You can either look at this list or think about your own. Whatever comes to mind for you, you can jot those 10 down, and then you can circle the 5 and then circle the 3, and then you come out with your most valuable values, what you value the most in your life. So moving on to step 2, and I will send you the full worksheet if you do register at the link that I mentioned, www.themovementpath.com/impact-your-pause. And whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching the replay, you can still use that link, and I'll send these resources along. So as I said, we're moving pretty quickly through this, so it's just to give you an idea of how this exercise can be performed. So determining your big rocks is step 2, and your big rocks represent your top priorities, the things that are that would make the biggest differences in your life, the thing that would move the needle the most to make you feel the most fulfilled. So as the analogy goes, when you fill up a jar, you need to put the big rocks in first, And then you can put the little rocks and then the sand. But if you put the sand first, the things that mean less to you, things that are kind of like icing on the cake, those, then you don't have room for your big priorities. So you want to put your big priorities in the jar first. These are essential to your survival and your fulfillment. And they can be related to family, friends, service, career, sleep, health, religion, a whole bunch of other things. So spend a moment thinking about your life and the people, activities, characteristics, and things that you want to prioritize in your future. What makes the biggest positive difference in your life and makes you feel most fulfilled? What can't you imagine a life without? And a couple of prompts could be what type of work or leisure activities do you get most excited about? What kinds of things do people count on you for that you enjoy doing? How do you want to spend your time? Things that maybe they're things that you're already prioritizing, and some maybe ones that you want to turn your focus on in the future. So similar to how you discovered your values, start by listing your top 10 big rocks and then work on narrowing it down to 5 and then to 3. And step 3, finally, is now you're ready to pull it all together and craft your menopause vision statement that defines what's most important to you in your life, highlights how you want to spend your time and energy, and it can specifically prioritize how you want to prioritize your health and fitness, and also might include things that are a little bit bigger but that still contribute to your overall well-being. So there are several ways you can write this statement, and here are just a couple of examples. So in my life, thriving during menopause means, and insert your surrounding myself with these people, engaging in this activity on a regular basis, and achieving this goal. And that turns into, in my life, thriving during menopause means spending as much time as I can with my immediate family, tending to my beautiful garden, and being strong enough to do a push-up. And then another example, during and after menopause, I want to prioritize my family and friends, my health, and service to others. This will look like having my kids over for meals, helping care for my grandkids, and organizing charity walks with my friends. All of these activities help me live according to my values of purpose and connection. So you can start with this, and there are other examples I can send you. Again, if you register, I can send you the full worksheet. And this is also something that you don't need to do all at once. You can iterate on this over and over. So you can craft your initial statement, and then you can run your life through it a little bit, and then you can tweak it a little bit and iterate on it several times. But once you've written your initial statement, you can ask yourself the following questions. Does this statement align with my top 3 values? Does this statement take my top 3 big rocks into consideration? Does the statement align with how I want to spend my time? And when I close my eyes and envision living according to this statement, do I feel good? Do I feel joyful, expansive, light, excited, or inspired? And if you can answer a confident yes to these questions, then you've just crafted your menopause vision statement. And if you'd like to me to email you the full worksheet, you can either just drop a message to me and ask me to do that, or register as I've provided the link in the beginning and I'll provide again at the end. So I hope that is helpful and that gets you thinking and inspired, and it can really act as your North Star. And like I mentioned, I want to live to be 105, and I have crafted my vision statement according to that. And so everything that I do today, I can run my my decision making through that vision statement, and it is quite helpful because it helps me quickly decide in one way or another how I'm going to spend my time and what choices I'm going to make. All right, so that completes our menopause vision statement segment. We're going to be moving on to mobility in menopause. This is a subject I'm incredibly passionate about. I came to menopause coaching through mobility coaching as I was blown away by this fact, and that is that the information coming from your joints is prioritized by the brain, bypassing the filter in the spinal column, providing the brain with invaluable information about how and where you want to move. So this is incredibly important because basically refers to you don't move where you don't move, or move it or lose it. So that it speaks to the incredible importance of moving our joints specifically and letting our brains know that we want to move here. So we know that our tissues and bones are at risk of decreasing throughout the aging process, and specifically in menopause. And this makes mobility in menopause extremely important because mobility is the foundation of fitness and health. And by mobility here, I mean joint capability, not just stretching, not just being flexible, but really the capabilities of our joints. And I'll continue to explain what I mean about that. But imagine the frame of your home, under the sheetrock, beneath the floor, over your head, in your ceiling. These are beams. There are beams. These beams are held together by joints. And if those joints aren't strong, it doesn't matter how strong the beams are, the house will ultimately malfunction in some way if those joints aren't stable. So we can apply that same principle to our bodies, and by implementing intentional joint rotations and strengthening exercises, we can impact this foundation directly to build our other strength upon. Another point here is that the body is incredibly efficient. It does not spend energy where it is not needed. So if you're not moving your arm behind you, except for once a week or once a month when you have someone in your passenger seat and your purse is behind you, your body will save that energy, that movement, for something else that you're doing more of, like typing. The body doesn't know what you want to do unless you give it direction. And what many people do not know is that you can impact the architecture of your joints. You can lay down new tissue, you can lay down ligaments, tendons, and you can impact cartilage health through movement. So this is something I like to tell everybody who will listen to me, because we can impact the strength of our joints, and that isn't widely known. So let's talk about our body's design for a little bit. Our bodies are designed to hunt and gather, and did so for 83,000 generations. It's hard to imagine or put that into perspective, but I can tell you a couple more facts that might help. The agricultural age began 350 generations ago, the industrial age 7, and the digital age only 2 generations. So this is a very short period of time that we're living in, and our bodies are being asked to do something completely different than what they were designed for, because of our sedentary lifestyles. We have to remember that we're more than our heads and our hands when we work, and yet we often forget that our other body parts are still there, that we still need to take care of them. Our body's design hasn't changed in all of these years. We have the same genome, the same structure, but we ask our bodies to perform differently throughout the day. While they were designed to move regularly throughout the day, and now we often don't. Now we are often sitting, and we have to remind ourselves to get up and move when our bodies were actually designed to be in constant motion. So how do we compensate for this gap between our innate design and the state of our experience? I believe strongly when we learn and educate ourselves about our bodies, we can become empowered to make critical change. So the more we know, the more we can make an impact. Here is a diagram, couple diagrams of our joints to help you envision what's going on. And over here on the left, we see the two bones in relationship to one another, which is the definition of a joint. We see cartilage in between the two joints, and then we see this blue casing, and that is the joint capsule. The joint capsule houses the synovial fluid, and when we move our joints in relationship to one another, move our bones in relationship to one another, synovial fluid is released, and that's a good thing. In this case, this fluid is a good thing, and we want more of this. We want to create more space between our bones so that we are not at risk of impingement or at risk of that cartilage declining. So by moving your joints through the full range of motion, the joint capsule expresses fluid and impacts the space around the bones, moving relative to one another. And it's important that we move because there's nothing in your brain that says maintain the health of the shoulder. It is the information you give the brain that impacts the future of the shoulder. Remember that first slide of mobility where we talked about the information coming from the joints goes directly to the brain to highlight how important it is. So it's actually moving the shoulder that that maintains the health of the shoulder, and that I'm losing the word here. I have some menopause fog. But to guarantee the health of the shoulder, you do need to move the shoulder. It's not a supplement. It's not a magic shot. It's actually movement and exercise. And I believe strongly that we were given what we need. Not to say that we shouldn't be taking supplements or we shouldn't be taking an HRT for our specific circumstances. That's not at all what I'm saying. I absolutely think that that's a highly personal decision, but I do advocate for exercise in all cases. Whether you're taking HRT, whether you're feeling good already, we absolutely need to exercise and move in specific ways to impact the health of our bodies moving forward. Another example here to further paint the picture. So injury will occur when external force exceeds internal strength. And this is the same whether you are rolling your ankle or whether you're hit by a bus. It's the same principle that when the external force exceeds your internal capability of withstanding to that pressure, we will experience injury. So as we journey through menopause, we become more at risk due to thinning tissues and reduced bone density. But without special attention paid to strengthening our joints and our tissues with movement, we become more at risk of injury. And it's not just because we're old that we have trouble moving. It is simply that we are not moving in effective ways to support the lifestyle we expect to live. So I suggest, and I like to encourage people to think about shifting our focus around aging and what our bodies need, because our society has us so focused on the exterior that we're conditioned to look at our aging bodies and blame it for not keeping up with our ideals and desires. We often use our age as an excuse for why we don't do things, or that the ways that we used to feel aren't the way that we feel now, and we blame that on our bodies and our age, rather. Sorry. Of course, our changes during menopause are real and affect us and put us at risk for so many diseases, but we know that menopause in and of itself is not a disease, that our bodies were designed beautifully, and that we have access to what we need to impact our health. And exercise truly checks all the boxes, meaning the risks that come with menopause and aging are offset with the implementations of exercise. All of our body systems are positively impacted by exercise, just as all the body systems are impacted by menopause. And exercise is our most powerful tool, and much more powerful tool in combination with nutrition, hydration, sleep, and stress reduction. Joint strength and mobility, serving as the foundation of movement, will keep you able to exercise for longer. As far as we know, this is our one precious life in our one precious bodies. So let me show you an easy example of a mobility exercise to try. So I'll be demonstrating in a video a spinal segmentation. And as I said earlier, our joints, or our bones rather, have synovial fluid surrounding them. And this is true of each vertebrae in the spine as well. And one thing I like to teach as a very fundamental mobility exercise is spinal segmentation. And it is the idea of moving each vertebrae independently of one another as much as possible. Now, we all have blocks or kind of like stuck portions of our spine from sitting or from not moving through our full ranges of motion that our spine is capable of. And that often can cause pain and discomfort and other injury. So you can expect to not be able to move every vertebrae independently of one another as you first try this exercise, and I don't want you to get discouraged because it's true for all of us. I do mention this in the video that you'll see, but practice, practice, practice is what really makes the difference. Repetition. So whenever you're trying something new, your brain doesn't know that you want to do it until you continue doing it and demonstrating that repetition will then create those new neural pathways that the brain needs to help you perform the movement better. So let's try, let's take a look here. You can get down on your mats if you'd like, or you could take a little watch first. If you're watching this as a replay, you can take a pause, watch the video and then pause it and try it yourself. But this is an example of spinal segmentation in a quadruped position. I'm beginning with a flexed spine and initiating movement from the base of my spine first, asking each vertebrae to move into extension independently of one another. I'm not involving my scapula here to mimic any movement. We don't see a great deal of movement from our spine, so don't expect to see or feel huge amounts of movement. Once you've dropped into extension, you can begin moving back into flexion again at the base of your spine first. You can imagine that there's fingertips moving up your spine, asking and cueing each vertebrae to move back into flexion. I've been working on this for about 8 months' time, and I've been able to break up some chunks and some blocks, and I'm still working on it and will continue to. The more that we can move our vertebrae independently of one another, the more we can distribute force evenly across our spine. So as we sit all day, our spine compresses, we create those blocks or chunks, and we need to break those up so that we can experience less pain, less of our back going out. So try this once a day, more if possible. And it will be difficult at first, but it gets easier, I promise. Let me know how it goes. This is an example. This is an example of spinal segmentation in a quadruped position. Spinal segmentation. I'm beginning with a flexed spine and initiating movement. Sorry, everyone. A little hiccup there. So I'll continue talking if you do want to try this right now. I like to do this in front of the TV at night when I'm hanging out with my daughter. It's nice to do daily and even more often if you have the time. It's basically a cat-cow, as you may be familiar with, where you're arching your back up to the sky and then you're letting your belly hang low. But with this slow, deliberate, controlled movement, you are expressing that synovial fluid, which then creates more mobility. And I think a lot of people, we've been taught that strength training is kind of the strength training and stretching are the only ways to create that strength and create that mobility. But this is asking us to go a little bit deeper to the structure of our joints and caring for those joints first. And then we're allowed and able to bear more load and to increase our weight in the gym and also to increase flexibility. This is just one example of a mobility exercise that I teach. There are controlled articular rotations for each joint of the body that can be done daily. That will also increase your range of motion and the strength within the joint itself. And since I've been practicing this, I have made gains in my strength training and in my aerobic activity. And it's really the foundation that helps us do more and do more for longer and do more with less risk of injury. So highly recommend, and you can connect with me. I'll share a little bit at the end about the programming that I have, but I'm a big proponent of joint strength and basically why I'm here in menopause specifically, because women experience that thinning at a faster rate than men, and during this time. So we can really make an impact if we have the information that we need. Okay, and that's the end of the segment for mobility in menopause. And now we'll move on to pelvic health, another thing that I'm incredibly passionate about because it does have to do with our overall health. So this is the definition from the Baylor College of Medicine, and I'll take a moment to read it. Pelvic health is the best possible functioning and management of the bladder, bowel, and reproductive organs. It is not merely the absence of disease or weakness in these organs. Pelvic health plays an important role in complete physical, mental, social, and sexual well being. So, our pelvic health is considered paramount to our overall health. Since it houses so many organs and performs so many functions, including sitting, walking, running, and creating and birthing life, to name a few, it is in our best interest that it is in optimal condition. Simply put, your pelvic health contributes to your overall health. In order to understand how this area of our bodies contributes to our health, it is important to learn the anatomy and functionality of the pelvic floor. Following this understanding, we can implement basic techniques to perform on our own or during training sessions that may be able to prevent future dysfunctions or mitigate any symptoms you are currently experiencing. So let's take a look at the anatomy of the pelvis. Take a minute and take all of this in. What I'm struck by is the incredible job of the muscles in our pelvis responsible for holding up our organs. Over here on the left, we see that side view, and we see all the organs held up by that pelvic floor muscle, which is actually 3 layers. We'll talk about that. But on the right, there are the layers of the pelvic floor that are, you can kind of see that are independent of one another. And you see that cartilage and the tissue that holds the muscles to the pelvic girdle. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles and connective tissue that sits inside the pelvis, forming a hammock-like structure that stretches from the tailbone to the pubic bone and between, and then from side to side. These muscles serve as the floor of the pubic cavity and play important roles in collaboration with the pelvic organs. There are 3 layers of the pelvic floor, so we'll go a little deeper and learn about what the 3 layers are responsible for. The urogenital triangle has 3 muscles, the ischiocavernosus, the bulbocavernosus, and the transverse perineal superficialis. The function of this layer is relatively unknown, but assume that it contributes to sexual pleasure and function. And it does also include the external urethral and anal sphincters, and we know that this layer does support the other layers of the pelvic floor. Layer 2 is in the middle, and it includes internal urethral and anal sphincters, which control continence. When these muscles aren't working properly, a woman may have difficulty starting the flow of and controlling urine or feces. Excuse me. And I want to point out that continence or incontinence refers to the inability to control your urine, and continence would refer to the ability to control your urine and feces. So, and this can happen, incontinence can occur in varying degrees, as I'm sure you are familiar with in some regard. A high percentage of women experience incontinence at some point in their lives. Oops, sorry. Now we're here at the deep pelvic floor. This layer is the one most of us are familiar with and is often considered to be 2 muscle groups. In this deepest layer, the muscles work together with the surrounding fascia and connective tissue to lift and support the pelvic organs, thus preventing prolapse. They also contribute to maintaining continence. So you can see that all the layers support continence, which is a favorable function and attribute. Incontinence of some form is very common in women during pregnancy and after childbirth, and during the menopause transition and beyond. It can significantly affect quality of life, and in most cases is very treatable with the correct guidance and support. I want to emphasize here this list of risks of postmenopause, perimenopause, menopause on the pelvis. I want to emphasize that these conditions are not uncommon. They're more common than not, and we can impact them through exercise and treatment if we talk about them. Many of these can be impacted by exercise alone. Some of the risks are decline in reproductive hormones cause thinning tissues. Genitourinary syndrome of menopause, or GSM, I'll explain a little bit more about in just a minute. Possibility of low tone, poor strength, poor coordination, pelvic organ prolapse, which means that the organs are at risk of falling through or are sitting lower and kind of falling through the pelvic floor muscles, and that can be to any degree. There are different degrees of pelvic organ prolapse. Incontinence or leaky bladder, and other pelvic floor dysfunction like difficulties emptying the bladder and bowel and pelvic pain. The prevalence of prolapse and incontinence are less known since many women are embarrassed to speak about these sensitive issues. But having conversations like this can open up the dialogue and make sure we are offering the support to women that we deserve. Let's talk a little bit about GSM. As women move toward menopause, lowered estrogen levels can lead to tissue-related and anatomical changes in the structures of the pelvis. Genitourinary syndrome of menopause, or GSM, is a chronic progressive condition that affects the female genitourinary tract, including the bladder, urethra, external genitalia, pelvic floor tissues, and vagina. Luckily, this term is replacing vaginal atrophy, because this is not an okay term. Vaginal atrophy does not accurately describe what's going on, and it just serves to shame women even more. So luckily, there is a movement toward more positive language regarding our bodies, and I see the UK leading us in that regard. They're about four years ahead of us in my estimate about how they're supporting women through menopause. 19% of premenopausal women ages 40 to 45 struggle with GSM. It is primarily prevalent during and after menopause, with 84% of postmenopausal women affected. Lifestyle habits like movement and nutrition likely help to mitigate risks and manage symptoms. More research obviously needs to be done in this regard, but we know that strengthening muscles is always a good thing. So engaging in movement that both contracts and relaxes the pelvic floor specifically can only do good. Anyone experiencing symptoms of prolapse should be referred to a pelvic health physiotherapist, and I can help you with that. Absolutely. You can connect with me and I can help with any referrals that you might need. But the movements we are learning today are simple, safe, and designed to help you connect with your pelvis. But again, if you do need some support, if you think you're experiencing prolapse, which some of the symptoms would be a bulge in your vagina, or any pain, or kind of feeling like there's a little bit of falling going on, that things are sitting a little bit too low, you may be experiencing prolapse. Again, very common and nothing to be embarrassed about, but we just need to talk about it and support each other in getting the care that we need. So a pelvic health physiotherapist is someone that you'd want to see, and your general practitioner could refer you to a pelvic health physiotherapist and make sure. Basically, a physiotherapist is what a physical therapist is called throughout the rest of the world. In the US, we call it a physical therapist, but a physiotherapist is what I'm using because that's more worldwide. And it's important that your physiotherapist has specialization in pelvic floor health. So something to keep in mind. And again, if you need some referrals, I can help you with that. So let's talk a little bit about the principles of strengthening the pelvic floor. Research shows that the strengthening of the pelvic floor should follow the same three principles of training used for other muscle groups. So these are specificity, overload, and reversibility. Specificity refers to the training replicating the specific desired purpose. So like, for instance, a bicep curl would be performed in order to help you with picking up your groceries and putting them on the counter. a farmer carry would help you and train for carrying your groceries. So we apply that same principle to the pelvic floor. So where the specificity of the exercise would be to contract, which would be the same the same um, uh, thing that is necessary, the same action necessary, and controlling continence, controlling the flow of your urine and your feces. Overload refers to the muscles that are working harder. Refers to muscles working harder than they are used to. So we ask a little bit more in a bicep curl. You want to overload your strength or your weight because you want to make sure that you're staying ahead in order to build the strength. So again, with the pelvis, we want to contract it a little bit more than it would be contracting to control the flow of urine. And the third principle is reversibility. And that is when people stop training, they lose the effects they gained. So if you are training, and you get to a certain strength and then you stop, that ultimately your strength will decline unless you continue. So this is a lifelong process that we're talking about, and I like to help people find movements that they enjoy, so that we don't feel like it's a chore, that getting in touch with our bodies can be enjoyable, and understanding their capabilities and their amazing powers can be really empowering and help us stay engaged in that activity that is so important to our health. So I want to teach you the connection breath. This is something that has really impacted me and my clients, and it is the first thing that we want to do to gain awareness and to get in touch with the pelvic floor muscles specifically in order to start strengthening them. And this, excuse me, this exercise alone, this breathing exercise alone does strengthen the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is consistently responding to breathing patterns and intra-abdominal pressure, even at rest. And this is why breathing techniques can also help build pelvic floor control. So before we start this, I want you to think of your core as a can, maybe a sparkling water can rather than a soda can. And your pelvic floor is the bottom of the can, and your diaphragm is the top of the can. And all of your muscles and in your abdominal muscles, things that we generally think of like the core, all those side muscles are the sides of the can. And when you breathe, everything moves away from one another on the inhale and toward one another on the exhale. So constantly your pelvic floor is engaging just by breathing normally. So we're going to ask the pelvis and the pelvic floor to engage in that overload principle, where we're going to try to affect that breathing pattern just a little bit more by asking the pelvis to expand and relax, and then to contract on the exhale. I thought I had another slide in here with some other amazing points, but I'm sure I'll remember to tell you. So let's start by sitting down in a chair if you're not already. This can be done lying down too, but I like to teach it sitting because it's important that it's nice to have your sits bones kind of connecting to the chair. If you can't feel your sits bones, that's okay. They're there, but to just have that grounding, and your feet on the ground and your torso upright is helpful to feel that relaxation, that expansion, and that contraction a little bit more. But once you learn it, you can really do it anywhere and everywhere, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So you want to sit upright in a chair, supported against the back of the chair with your feet evenly on the ground, and you want to place your hands on your abdomen. And then you're going to inhale into your abdomen, feeling your hands raise with your belly or move with your belly. And as you inhale, you want to relax all the muscles that you can feel. Take a nice deep inhale. You can close your eyes if you like, and exhale naturally. Just reflexively exhale. And a few more times, I want you to feel that inhale and try to relax all of the muscles that you can feel. So maybe you feel your pelvic floor moving down, maybe you feel your diaphragm moving up, and you feel your core expanding on that inhale. And hopefully you're able to feel some sort of relaxation. Just exhale naturally. Again, inhale. Feel your belly press against your hands. And exhale naturally. One more time, inhale. And exhale. Now on this next inhale, again, relax. And as you exhale, I want you to think about your pelvic floor pulling up towards your belly button like an elevator. So like you're in an elevator shaft, your pelvis is in an elevator shaft, and it's pulling up towards your belly button, and relax. So this is a slower contraction. It's not a quick and fast. It's not quick and strong. It's slow and steady. So inhale again, nice big belly, relax, everything moves away from each other. And exhale, and your pelvic floor comes up towards your belly button, contracting like 10, 20, 30% contraction before you relax on your inhale. Again, it's nice and slow, like an elevator. It's not too fast. Inhaling, big belly. Exhale, pull your pelvic floor up towards your belly button. You can also think of your vagina pulling a tissue out of a tissue box. And inhale, relax. We'll do this a few more times. Exhale. Pull that pelvic floor up, 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 up. You can try to squeeze your vagina, squeeze your anus. Exhale, or sorry, inhale. Nice big belly. Exhale, pull your pelvic floor, contract your pelvic floor like you're pulling it up the elevator shaft towards your belly button. One more time, relax everything on the inhale. Relaxing is just as important as contracting. And pull that pelvic floor up, 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 up towards your belly button and give it a squeeze. That always relaxes me so much because it's very similar to diaphragmatic breathing and which accesses or stimulates your vagus nerve, which helps to calm you. So I always come away with that even after teaching, like, a couple of things that I wanted to mention. The pelvis has slow twitch fibers and fast twitch fibers that need to be strengthened. So the slow twitch fibers are things like we're accessing slow twitch fibers by doing this type of exercise, by a slow contraction. And when I say 20, 30%, that means like think about your maximum strength at 100% and your weakest strength at 0%. And so find some way, somewhere in that lower half below 50 that you can access to contract and strengthen. And I'm starting with a lower number because sometimes it's hard for us to even feel our pelvic floor. So don't be discouraged if you are having trouble accessing it or feeling it. As I said, same thing with mobility. Our brains need to understand that we want this by doing this. So just the fact that you're trying will help your brain understand that you do want to move in this way, that you are asking your pelvic floor muscles to engage and to move up. And then your brain will understand, okay, well, She wants to spend energy here. So let's make that happen. Let's lay some neural pathways for her to be able to perform this exercise better next time. When you hear muscle memory, or that's really what we're talking about. The more you do something, the more your muscle and the more your brain also is engaged in helping you perform that movement. So next time you do this, it will be easier. And each time you do it, you'll be able to contract just a little bit more. And then we can apply that principle of overload to make sure that we're contracting just a little bit more than we would in a when we're using the restroom. So I could go on and on about this, but I think I will continue. I'm sure I'll continue sharing things as we move through this. Okay. So these are a couple of different exercises that impact the pelvic floor and in your hips. And I believe that, or the hips are connected to the pelvis, obviously. So, and the cartilage and the joint tissue are connected. So you saw how the pelvic floor is attached to the pelvic girdle, and then the hips are attached to the pelvic girdle as well. So all of these, we're all in an interconnected body of systems that work together. So by moving our hips, we can also impact the pelvic floor. This is an easy thing that is accessible to everyone. Again, safe. It's a windshield wiper with tension. So in this video, I'm asking that my knees stay as far apart from one another as possible, and they move from side to side. So as you move one, you move one as far as you can before the other one follows. And that tension provides a tension in the hip capsules that create that synovial fluid that I was talking about earlier and create more movement and more capacity. So you can watch this here and
let your hips move freely in as much as you're controlled as you're moving your knees down to the floor as far as you can. You're lifting that knee, trying to hold that tension, keeping your knees as far apart from one another as possible, pretending they're allergic to one another as you reach that other knee towards the ground. Nice and slow and controlled. What we're doing here is we're applying pressure to the joint capsule of each hip, and we're asking it to secrete fluid, in this case, good fluid, synovial fluid, helps to lubricate the joints and to create more space within the capsule of the joint, thus giving us more movement or more opportunity for movement and more access to range of motion and eventually space for more strength to be created. We can lay down new tissues, new ligaments, new tendons within every joint. It's something that a lot of people don't know, surprisingly enough. But we can strengthen the actual connective tissue that holds our muscle to our bone. Now let your hips move. Breathe.
so that in this one, it's important to note that your butt doesn't have to stay on the ground. You can kind of let your hips move from the ground as you're driving your knees. And I can send you these full-length videos if you register, or just send me a message on any of the platforms that we're on together. This next video is a anterior and posterior tilt. So you're tucking and tilting, creating space between your back and the mat on the tilt and pressing your lower back into the ground on the tuck. I'm sure you're familiar with this, tucking and tilting your pelvis, and then moving up and slowly into a bridge is a great exercise for your pelvis. I'm not going to play that because I know that It's a simple enough exercise to explain, and we're kind of running short on time. This one I want to introduce because it's like a cat cow in a seated position. In this, you're rocking your pelvis back and forth in this case and providing that pressure on your joint capsules as well, um, helping to increase your movement in your pelvic floor and in your muscles. So I do want to share this a little bit.
Really stretch your arms and find that stretch in your spine. Pulling on your knees to max up your extension here. Exhaling into flexion or a curved spine. Inhaling into extension. Reaching your chin up slightly. And exhaling. Moving towards the back of your sits bones. Tucking your pelvis slightly. Inhaling, moving to the top.
Okay, and that can be done. You can that can be paired with the connection breath. Another point I wanted to make is that you can pair that connection breath with any exercise, even a bicep curl. And it is recommended that that connection breath is paired with at least one exercise of any training session that you're doing. So you can even, in a bicep curl example, again, as you lengthen your arm, that's your inhale. As you contract your muscle, that's your exhale, and that's when you can pull up on your pelvic floor. So something that can be done, the connection breath can be done while you're lying in bed, while you're sitting in your car, while you're doing exercises. And I recommend to engage in a session once daily, if not more. And then that can really help you connect with that pelvic floor. And these additional exercises are just an example of pelvic exercises that impact pelvic health and can get your pelvis moving in great flexible ways. And we're at the end here of our time together, but before we close, I wanted to ask if it was okay if I share my current program with you. And I'm very excited about what I've got going on currently. Optimize Your Pause is a 12-week menopause fitness coaching program. We focus on strength, mobility, and lifestyle change. There's all the menopause education that you can imagine throughout that 12 weeks, and workshops on mindset and self-care, as well as a complete fitness program. So 12 weeks of fitness programming depending on your level, but depending on your goals and depending on your lifestyle circumstances. And I focus on habits and lifestyle change coaching. And we work one-on-one together, and we can also have opportunity for group sessions as well. So that's fun, and that is starting on the 22nd of this month. That's March 22nd, and applications are currently being accepted. You can visit themovementpath.com for a full description, and learn or get that link to apply on the website. I'm also offering 360 coaching, and that's coaching sessions in 4-week periods, and those are all virtual. I use an app called EverFit as well, and I also use the same app in Optimize Your Pause. And depending on your unique goals and fitness level, I tailor that programming to you, and we communicate in 4 sessions, as well as through the app and programming for those 4 weeks. So I've had so much fun creating these experiences, and the feedback so far from my clients is great. It's transformative and inspiring. You can also book a complimentary call with me for anything that you want to talk about. So if you need a referral or have a question about what I've shared here, or you're a wellness professional and you'd like to collaborate or be in one another's network, that's wonderful. I'm here for everything. So book a call, and I offer a 30-minute free complimentary call. So if there's ever anything that you want to chat about, please, please, please don't hesitate. I'm happy to meet you and chat with you and get you the support you need and work together in whatever way is um, great for us all and continue the conversation. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciated being here. Remember to register at Movement Path and Impact Your Pause to receive all the full length videos I shared. And I hope to hear from you soon. And whatever you do, remember to keep moving. Take care. See you soon.